of stress. Today, we have a distinguished speaker, Dr. G. Satyanarayanan, Assistant Professor, Department of Physiology, Dr. ALM, Postgraduate Institute of Basic Medical Sciences, University of Madras, Tharumani, Chennai. He completed his undergraduation in microbiology in the year 2000 from University of Madras. He completed his post-graduation in physiology in the year 2003. He completed his PhD in the year 2010 from University of Madras. His PhD thesis title was on role of garlic in visitor albino rats after noise exposure. Initially, he worked as a tutor in Meenakshi Medical College Hospital and Research Institute from the year 2003 to 2005. Then he was teaching cum research fellow in Dr. ALM Postgraduate Institute of Basic Medical Science, Department of Physiology, University of Madras, Tharumani from the year 2005 to 2007. Then he worked as a tutor in Madras Medical College from the year 2008 to 2014. From the year 2014, he is working as an assistant professor in Dr. ALM, Postgraduate Institute of Basic Medical Sciences, Department of Physiology, University of Madras, Tharumani, Chennai. He is awarded Professor N. Padmanabhan Award from Indian Association of Biomedical Scientists in the year 2008. He has a number of publications in the following journals: Molecular and Cellular Biochemistry, Chemico-Biological Interactions, National Journal of Physiology, National Journal of Physiology, BAPT,
Shwadi, we can start, Shwadi.
International Journal of Pharmaceutical Scientific Research,
Yeah, Shwadi Priya, we can start, Shwadi Priya.
and lot more. Yes, sir. We welcome
Yeah.
Dr. G. Satyanarayanan to begin the
Mm,
session. Yes,
yeah.
sir. We'll start, sir.
Yeah. Thank you for this introduction, Shwadi. Is it audible now? Is it audible, Shwadi?
Yes, sir. Yes, you
Yeah.
are audible,
Okay.
sir.
Yeah. Okay. So I would like to thank Professor Dr. Sendil Kumar, Director and the Organizing Secretary, Swati Priya, for giving me this opportunity. And they used the time very well during this COVID-19. I also extend my thanks to Dr. A. Namashivayam, Dr. A. Sheila Devi, and Dr. R. Ravindran, who were my teachers and who have molded me what I am today. So, a small introduction. Today, I will be speaking on stress physiology. Since the basic audience here are usually, I think they are mostly undergraduate students. So I'll be teaching
Yes, sir.
about, speaking about, since undergrad, speaking about the basic physiology of stress. What are the pathophysiology of stress and how to manage stress. So that will be my basic topic today. So everyone will be aware of this. Just a minute. Pandemic of 2021st century. So everyone knows about COVID. So it has become pandemic. Once it was endemic and it start to travel and becomes pandemic of the 21st century. And we have missed to notice that the other one, which is pandemic through all the century, is stress, and which have failed to notice. There is a common saying that men are from Mars and women are from Venus. So though these two, they are a planet apart, I don't think so there is much difference between the physiology of men and which change was observed, and the physiological functions of almost both male and physiology are same, and the way they tackle the stress or the way they handle the stress are almost same. So stressor has become inevitable in life. And the common man is exposed to many forms of stress in his day-to-day life, like noise stress, work stress, sleep deprivation, quarrel between the siblings, food deprivation, stress in the school, homework, food deprivation, and now COVID-19. So the stresses has been of different forms, but the human physiology remains the same. So different types of stress of there, we have the same human physiology, which is going to help us to cope with the stress. So he is Hansley, who is called as the father of stress physiology, and he has defined the stress as the non-specific response of the body to any demand for change. And he has also said that every stress leaves an indelible scar, and the organism pays for its survival after a stressful situation by becoming a little older. And this is mainly one, this is the reason why we have evolved, or we have been evolved through the generations. And basically, if you see the stress, it is of two types, that is eustress and distress. Eustress is actually call it as good stress, since we cannot live without stress. Stress is good for life. So without stress or challenges, we cannot evolve, or we cannot undergo the survival of the fittest situation at all. Anyone, an individual who is participating in a competition, will be under very high stress. So only stress that will be going in his mind is he has to win the competition. But that stress is very good to him, and it enables his concentration and increases performance, and it energizes his action. So this is, you call it as a eustress. And also for reading for your exam. And negative stress, so there are many things, food deprivation, failure in the examinations, you call them as negative stress, and these will decrease your motivation and reduce your effectiveness and causes mental, physical, and behavioral problems. So anything which is going to alter the normal proper functioning of the body, you call it as a stressor. So that is which is going to alter your homeostasis. So all physiological systems, almost we have about 11 systems in the body. They are tuned up in such a way that they work in a harmony to maintain the proper functioning of an organism. And this has played a very major role in the evolution. The term homeostasis, it was coined by W.B. Cannon, Walter B. Cannon, and he told that this homeostasis is very much essential for life and well-being. In physiology, we call it as maintenance of static or standard condition in the internal environment. You call it as homeostasis. That is a normal functioning of the body. You call it as homeostasis. So anything which is going to disturb this balance, that is a proper functioning of the body. There should be always a balance between an eustress and a distress in the body. And you are continuously exposed to distress, and you're continuously exposed to eustress. And anything which is going to disturb this balance, you call it as a stressor. And body has learned to come out from this stress. And that you call that as the adaptive stress response. That is, it is defined as a state of disharmony which is contracted by delicate collection of physiological and behavioral responses which aim to regain the threatened homeostasis, is called adaptive stress response. That is the mechanism that is taken by the body to re-establish the threatened homeostasis. You call it as the adaptive stress response. So that is a stress response that is generated from the body. You call it as the adaptive stress response, and it is of three types: neural, neuroendocrine, and endocrine. So these are the three ways by which our body is going to overcome the stress. Anything that is any trigger or any stress will stimulate your stress receptors, and it will activate it via the sensory pathways, and it reaches the two portions of the brain, mainly the neocortex, which involves our cerebral cortex, which is involved in sensory perception, cognition, planning, thinking, generation of motor commands, and spatial reasoning. And these are the things which are concerned with, which is taken care by this neocortex. And the other one is the limbic cortex, and which is mainly concerned with emotions. And the limbic cortex will decide whether it is a stressful situation or a non-stressful situation. If it is a non-stressful situation, no perception of threat and no stress response. And if it is of stressful situation, the cognitive thinking of cerebral cortex will realize that it is actually a threat to the body, and it will initiate the triggering mechanism, and it will activate the stress response via the hypothalamus, and it leads to activation of three things. One is the direct neural innervations via sympathetic, parasympathetic, and somatic nervous system, and next your fight or flight response, and third one is the general adaptation syndrome. And we'll be seeing these three one by one. So here, if you see the neural innervation by sympathetic and parasympathetic, it will come under neural mechanism, and the fight or flight response will come under neuroendocrine mechanism, and for long term it will come under endocrine mechanism. So first we'll see about the neural axis, and it is a quickest mechanism which will come into play when an individual is exposed to a stressor, and it is the first to get activated. In physiology, you would have read about that last ditch response, right? That is, the CNS will come into play, it will increase the BP and will maintain it for a longer duration. It is similar to that. It will act very fast, the neural axis, where you have the sympathetic, parasympathetic, and neuromuscular nervous system, and it's the first to get activated, and therefore it is a quickest. So if there is a stressful situation, it will try to activate your sympathetic nervous system. And this picture shows the main difference between sympathetic activation and parasympathetic activation. When you are in a stressful situation, you can see the sympathetic nervous system is activated, and when you are in an normal, that is when you're taking rest and for normal regaining your energy, you'll be having the parasympathetic nervous system. So for example, let us assume that someone is chasing us. What will happen to your body? You can just realize what will actually happen. The eyes will dilate, the pupil will dilate, so you can see the images very clearly. Bronchial dilatation, respiratory rate will get increased, heart rate get increased, BP gets increased, so blood vessel constriction. Gastrointestinal system will get relaxed so that it can accommodate extra amount of food. Bladder gets relaxed, so no urination occurs, and uterus gets relaxed. Whereas if you see the same thing under normal condition, the opposite these things occurs. So sympathetic system is activated only when there is a stressful response, and this you call it as the ergotropic response. That is the neural activation via sympathetic nervous system. It is a generalized arousal mechanism, and it is referred to as ergotropic response. And trophotropic response, that is activated via the parasympathetic, you call it as tropotropic response, and that is almost like a restorative function. It tries to restore the it regains the energy that is expended. And most common form of autonomic stress response is the form of ergotropic response. And now the researchers are saying that during stress response, both sympathetic stress arousal is accompanied by parasympathetic activation. So both sympathetic and parasympathetic, they go together to cope up with the stressful situation. And next coming, and one important thing about this neural axis is it is of short acting. Even after strong sympathetic stimulation, we cannot withstand stress for a longer duration. Since the neural mechanism is mainly involves the release of neurotransmitters at the nerve endings, so prolonged stimulation, there will be exhaustion of the neurotransmitters. So in order to maintain this high level of stress arousal, additional physiological axis must be activated, and this is called as the fight or flight response. So mere neural axis cannot able to maintain the stress, and then comes your fight or flight response. Either you have to fight the situation or you have to run away, and this is neuroendocrine axis. So Walter B. Kennan, he was the one who termed as a fight or flight response, and it is mainly involved the adrenal medulla. So that's the reason why you call it as a neuroendocrine axis. So fight or flight reaction is actually prepares the body to perceive the thrust. So it actually makes the organism either to fight or run away from that situation. And this is called as a fight or flight response. And this fight or flight response is mediated by the catecholamines, where you call it adrenaline and noradrenaline, and 80% of its activity is accounted by epinephrine. And the main difference between the sympathetic catecholamine and the adrenal-medullary catecholamine is that the medullary catecholamines, it requires 20 to 30 seconds delay for onset, but displays a tenfold increase in the effect duration. So, and it is actually mediated by the dorsal-medial amygdalar complex, which is present in the midbrain. So it is going to initiate the fight or flight response, where the hypothalamus gets activated and reaches the adrenal medulla, and then it activates the adrenal medulla to release the catecholamines. These are the effects of adrenal medullary axis stimulation. It is almost similar to your sympathetic stimulation. You can see increase in arterial blood pressure, increase in blood pressure to the brain, increased heart rate and cardiac output, increased stimulation of skeletal muscle, and increased plasma fatty acids, increased endogenous opioids, decreased blood flow to kidney, decreased blood flow to GAT, and decreased blood flow to skin. Apart from this, we also have in susceptible persons, there will be they will be having increased risk of hypertension and increased risk of arrhythmias. So it is almost similar to your sympathetic activation, but it has a prolonged effect. So the fight or flight reaction, it's actually mediated by the neuroendocrine reflex. So which means that you have the nervous pathway which comes from the dorsal-medial amygdalar complex, then to the adrenal medulla, and from here it is taken up by the catecholamine. So it involves both neuroendocrine axis, and it can be for a prolonged time. And the third one, you call it as the endocrine axis, and it is for long-term regulation of stress. How to cope up with the stress if we are exposed to stress for a longer duration. And there are 4 established pathways. One is the adrenal cortical axis pathway, somatotrophic pathway, thyroid axis pathway, and posterior pituitary axis pathway. We have 4 pathways. The one is the adrenal cortical axis pathway. Excuse me. So this hypothalamo-pituitary adrenal cortex gets activated. So this increase in free fatty acid level, increase in blood glucose level is necessary to cope up with the stress. So for example, if the individual has to fight or if he has to run away, he needs more amount of blood glucose or free fatty acid for energy production. So this growth hormone increases the blood glucose level and free fatty acid level, thereby it increases the blood glucose, so you can able to face the stressful situation. And next is the usual common axis, thyroid axis, which increases your metabolism of the body, thereby you can able to withstand the stress. So it increases the general metabolism, it increases the heart rate, heart contractility, vascular resistance, and increases the sensitivity of some tissues to catecholamine. That is actually this thyroid hormone will prime the other cells for the catecholamines to act, so that the catecholamine action can be more efficient. And then posterior pituitary axis, if you see, have ADH secretions like oxytocin and ADH. So the main function of ADH is antidiuretic hormone, water retention, and it also has mild pressure activity. So the ultimate action of the posterior pituitary or ADH axis is in about the extreme situation that human will facing is this childbirth reflex. So this is mediated through oxytocin. As you all know, it is all a neuroendocrine reflex, which is mediated through the oxytocin. It is also a neuroendocrine reflex, where the impulse pain goes from the uterus to hypothalamus. From hypothalamus, the nerve signals reaches the uterus. From the hypothalamus, it releases the oxytocin. The oxytocin reaches the uterus and causes the contraction of the musculature of the uterine wall, and which helps in the expel of the baby. So these are the axes, some of the axes which actually maintains or prepares the individual to tackle the stress. Now we'll see what are the effects of stress response. What are the deleterious effects of stress? Whatever may be the stress, it should have some impact on the human physiology. Okay, so if you see, these are the some of the systems which gets affected upon sex exposure. Main is temperature. I think many of us would have felt that when we are exposed to stress, you would have felt that our body temperature would have been increased. And this is mainly due to the activation of the thermoregulatory sympathetic premotor nucleus in the medial raphe region. So you will be having this increased body temperature as long as you will be having this physiological intestinal system. When people used to say, when we are continuous exposure to stress, you will be having irritable bowel syndrome or inflammatory bowel syndrome, or will be having ulcer, your HCl secretion will get increased. So it is mainly due to the activation of the CRH receptors that causes the dysfunction of the intestinal barrier, and thereby it causes the inflammatory bowel disease. And it is mainly due to the activation of HPA axis and locus coeruleus and non-epinephrine sympathetic system, which helps in the depletion of the opioid system, which is responsible for stress-induced analgesia. So that is the people who are exposed to stress, they have a lower threshold for visceral pain sensations. And reproductive organ, actually we work on this portion of stress, that's mainly on the reproductive system. So what they say is corticosteroid, glucocorticoids mainly inhibits the GnRH neurons, and thereby it acts on directly on the gonads, and also makes the target tissues to become resistant to the sex steroids. So the target tissues like the ovaries and the testes, they will be resistant to the sex steroids, namely your testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone. So that will mainly lead to decrease in sperm count in males and leads to polycystic ovarian syndrome in females. As you all know, on circulatory system, it causes tachycardia, vasoconstriction, and hypertension. And respiration, it causes hyperventilation, emphysema, asthma. And kidney, it causes renal damage, and in some cases, extreme cases, it can also causes renal stones. And in nervous system, everyone will be aware that exposure to high level of stress initiates more production of reactive oxygen species, and this reactive oxygen species has a main role in damaging your neurons. So once when the neurons, when you're exposed to more amount of stress, which in turn leads to increase in the production of ROS, and that leads to the loss of neuronal count. That is, when you are exposed to stress for a longer duration, you will surely end up in Alzheimer's disease. That is, actually we are one of our students is working on stress exposure on Alzheimer's in rats. That is, when the rats are exposed to stress duration for a prolonged time, it causes defect in the tau phosphorylation and leads to the Alzheimer's disease. So what the body is actually doing when you're exposed to these types of stressors, what actually we have to do? So the body have a thing called as the general adaptation syndrome. The body will actually adapt to the situation what it is. So you have three stages, that is alarm stage, resistance stage, and exhaustion stage. In alarm stage, the stressors upset or threatens the homeostasis. That's alarm. it's an indication to the body that the homeostasis is altered. And in resistance stage, body fight back to the stress. That is your adaptive stress response comes here. And in exhaustion stage, at this stage, either you should take rest. If there is no rest, it leads to overtraining, injury, lack of adaptation, leads to death. You can see here. So these are the stages in general adaptation syndrome. The first stage is the alarm stage, where you can see sympathetic nervous system arousal, adrenal medullary stimulation, ACTH release is there, cortisol release is there, growth hormone release is there, increased thyroid activity, increased GnRH activity, and anxiety. So this is, you call it as the alarm stage. So it actually prepares the body to face the stressor. And next comes your resistance stage. It is reduction in the adrenal cortical activity and reduction in the sympathetic nervous system activity, and the homeostatic mechanism is engaged. That is, and in resistance stage, in alarm stage, actually the body tries to fight with the stressor, and in resistance stage, it will try to come back or make the homeostasis to come back to its normal level. That is the reason why all the hormones or neurons get activated in the alarm stage. So these alarm stage will prepare the body to maintain the homeostasis in the resistance stage. And if that is not done, and the last stage that you are exposed will be your exhaustion stage. And if this exhaustion stage is going to be prolonged, it leads to illness and death. And these are the basic things about stress physiology. Now, actually, we'll see some research point of view. Actually, this is our Institute of Basic Medical Science. Actually, what we do in stress physiology in our lab. So we have been working on different types of stress model in rats. So we cannot study the all type of stress in a human. We cannot go and take the brain sample or blood sample from a individual. Instead, we work with rats and also fishes. So you can see here, the first one you see here is the restraint stress, and the second, that is to mimic the IT company workers. No, they will be sitting in the chair from the whole day, from morning to evening. They have to sit and work, and it is restraint stress. And next you can see the forced swim stress, sleep. Actually, this is the rat which is sitting on a tripod stand. No, this is a custom made stand, and it is a sleep deprivation stand. And you have the pole climbing, social defeat, and noise stress and isolation stress. So these are the stress we actually work on. Apart from this, we also have many type of stresses we work on. And one of the stress morning, one of the speaker, he was speaking about REM sleep deprivation and its consolidation of memory. And we too work on the REM sleep deprivation using rat model. So what we have studied is about the hypothalamic pituitary testicular axis in Wistar albino rats. And this is actually the chamber where the animal will be exposed to REM deprivation. So what actually happens, you have a chamber here, 6 animals will be placed in the chamber, and each animal will be having a platform to sit, that is a tripod stand. So this place will be enough for the animal to only sit. When the animal starts to sleep, it will fill down from the stage, and the bottom will be having water there. So once it fell in the water, it cannot sleep in the water. It has to once again get up and sit on the tripod stand. So by this way, we actually will not make the animal to sleep. And this chamber is called as a modified multiple platform sleep deprivation chamber. And we have given the different durations like 24 hours, 42 hours, and 92 hours. So different durations we have seen that. And we have isolated the sperm from the animals. And we have studied the sexual behavior, hormone concentration, and histology of the testes. So this is about the sexual behavior, and this actually I'm telling this to know the impact of stress on the body. So because I have been speaking about stress for long duration, you should know what is the actual impact of stress on the body. And that is the reason why most of you can see many of the people, they complain of infertility nowadays. So one of the reason for this infertility is mainly due to the stress exposure. You can see here the animal that is exposed to 48 hours and 72 hours, 96 hours sleep deprivation, the sexual, you can see a great alteration in sexual behavior. The mounting latency has been increased and the mounting frequency has been decreased. As the duration of the sleep deprivation increases, the mounting latency and the mounting frequency, that is, you'll be using this using a male animal and a female animal, you can see a decrease in the mounting frequency and increase in the mounting latency. And also you can see here the intramotion latency has been increased and intramotion frequency has been decreased as the duration of the sleep deprivation increased. And you can see here the GnRH level has been decreased. There is an increase in FSH and decrease in LH and testosterone level. And also apart from this, we also have noticed there is a decrease in the sperm count and decrease in the motility of the sperms and decrease in the live sperm and increase in the dead sperm, and more amount of abnormal sperms were also noticed. And if you see the histology, a normal architecture, if you can see, as the duration of the sleep increases, the normal architecture of the sperm has been all the seminiferous tubule. What you see here is the histology of the seminiferous tubule. You can see here at 96 hours of sleep deprivation, there is a disruption in the morphology of the seminiferous tubule. So you can see there is a the distortion of the normal architecture. You can see the distortion of the Sertoli cells will be there. And to confirm the apoptosis, what is actually happening in the seminiferous tubules? What is the main reason for the decrease in the quality of the sperm upon this sleep deprivation stress exposure? So we have made a modified trichome staining, and we can see as the duration of the sleep increases, more amount of apoptotic cells were noticed in the seminiferous tubule. So which clearly indicates, so stress exposure has decreased the sperm count, sperm morphology, altered the hormones level, and also has altered the normal architecture of an individual. So beyond 92 hours, the animal cannot withstand, the animal will surely die. And this is the nutshell of what we have found. So we have seen a decrease in GnRH, increase in FSH and LH, and testosterone level has been increased. Apoptosis was noticed in the testis, and at last the animal will be infertile. And we are not stopped with rats, and we also did some experiments with zebrafish, which is the basic model to do research. It is also mimic, since it has almost 85% to 90% homology with the human genome. Anything which is going to, what we will notice in the zebrafish will be mimic the mammalian thing. So we have studied about this chronic stress, unpredictable chronic stress protocol in zebrafish. So these are the stress regimen. So we will be giving the zebrafish these stresses like chasing stress, low water level, crowding, predator, restraint stress, and then chasing stress. So there will be this paradigm will be jumbled way, so that the animal does not know what type of stress it will be exposed to on what day. So after the stress exposure, so will be this is just an example of how this is what low water level stress, and you can see the animal will be restraint stress, where the zebra fishes will be placed in Eppendorf tubes, and this is a predator stress. So after giving stress, these are the parameters that we will be studying. That is this T maze. You call it as a T maze, which is shown here. It is for studying learning and memory. And for studying the behavior, we have this novel tank apparatus. We have novel tank and all place preference and light and dark adaptation. So with these things, we can just note when the animals are exposed to stress, the normal behavior is altered. Usually the zebrafish will prefer to be in light environment. So upon stress exposure, the animal will prefer to go to the dark environment. And also, if you see in the animal, if you left the animal in the open box, it will go directly and take the feed which is present in the specific compartment. Either it can be, we can train the animal either in the left compartment or right compartment. But upon stress exposure, the animal goes to the wrong side, where it usually gets punished. So apart from this, we also do gene expressions in the zebrafish brains and a zebrafish heart. And now we are planning to record EEG and ECG from the zebrafish brain and heart upon exposure to stress. So what to do? How to manage the stress? So our goal is not to eliminate stress, but to learn how to manage and use it to help us. So now they are saying, no, learn to live with corona, like that. So one cannot eliminate stress from our life. So we should be able to live with stress. So what are the things that we can do? So take a very great, you should sleep nicely, and time management is important. Do regular exercising, yoga, and smile. And you can also do a breathing exercise, that is 15 times a day for 1 minute. So take a deep breath and expire. Take a deep breath, and even in a stressful situation, no, people usually used to say, drink water or take a deep breath, because it is actually a calmful mechanism. It will actually calms you. And next is to take healthy foods. You should take healthy foods and stay happy. So slow down, keep calm, be positive, take it easy, enjoy your life. Don't go outside now. You can relax being inside, meditate. So a diamond is just a piece of charcoal that has handled stress exceptionally well. So stress is inevitable, and God will not give what we cannot handle. So everyone can handle stress. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you,
The session
Shwadi.
was very informative. So thank you very much, sir, for
Thank you,
accepting
ma.
our invite and giving a very
Yeah,
valuable lecture. Thank you very much, sir.
thank you, ma.
Participants can post their queries in the chat box. So there's one query. What is the importance of locus coeruleus?
Wait, ma. I can't get you. Wait, just a minute.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Mm. Shwadi?
I'll read out the question, sir.
Yeah, read out, ma.
What is the importance of locus coeruleus?
Yeah, locus coeruleus, ma. It is actually present in the brainstem. If you see it, it is a part of reticular activating system. This reticular activating system is the one which is going to control your alertness, no? Reticular
Yes,
activating system, it is a part of reticular activating system which is going to maintain your alertness.
Next one is, sir, can you explain that time management? Someone has asked about time management.
Yeah. Time management, that's what time management in the sense they should know. For example, exam. What we will do. For example, when you're reading for, so you should start reading from the day one of your class, so that you can able to complete your syllabus when you're going for an exam. And also when you're going for a place, and you should, when you're going to a place, you should start at the earlier, no? So in order to reach the place at that correct time, that's called as a time management.
more query,
One
sir.
has asked that why there is headache upon stress exposure. So upon stress exposure, there is increase in blood pressure, thereby causes vasodilatation in the brain. That is the reason for the headache.
Stress management, food sources, sir. Someone has asked about food source, stress management.
Yeah, I didn't see anything in the chat box. Okay. Wait.
It's almost at the last, sir.
Last. In stressful situation, what to do? So that was in stressful situation, you can either take a deep breath, for 15 to 13, 15 breaths per minute. So that will actually make you calm down. So one has asked me that whether there is any drug control for stress. Actually, that is not advisable to go for any drug control upon stress exposure at this age. So better thing is to go with exercise or take a deep respiration. That is enough for overcoming the stress. Time management, eating healthy foods, and that is enough. Doing regular exercise and yoga, that will be an very good for stress handling. See, if someone has asked how to handle and depression state except yoga, and for that situation you should just
One more, sir. What is happening during stress to female reproductive system?
yeah, actually what happens is uh, upon prolonged exposure to stress, there is an alteration in the GnRH pulse. So you call it as, you have one pathway called as this kisspeptin neurokinin pathway is there, which is actually controlling the pulsatile nature of this GnRH secretion. Because for proper functioning of the female reproductive system, you need this estrogen and progesterone level should be at the normal level, and this is maintained by the pulsatile action of GnRH, and this GnRH is in turn controlled by the kispeptide and neurokinin B, and during upon stress exposure, these two peptides gets altered, and which in turn alters your GnRH pulsatility, and that is the reason why you have many disorders upon stress exposure in the female reproductive system. And one pathway is through the Kiss15 pathway, and that is the reason why many of them is getting this PCOS. And one has asked that if stress leads to PCOS and it is considered as a permanent reproductive problem once we handle stress. Yeah, so PCOS can be controlled. So one thing is, people usually think that once we get PCOS, no, it is almost like a lifelong problem. It's not like that. So PCOS can also be controlled. So if your stress level has been increased, and if you take this nutritious diets, no, we actually working on few drugs which are treatment for PCOS. You can also take those drugs, that is plant products, which is very much which can, for example, no, one such thing is your pineapple. No, many people say that pineapple is very good for controlling PCOS, but consumption period, but taking of pineapple actually reduces the pineapple is there, and also you can regularly take that some ashoka patta, something like that. You can take that, and actually they are very good remedy for. They are also anti-stressor in action, and they are very good remedy for PCOS also.
One has asked whether stress will affect our breathing, sir.
Yeah, it causes so breathlessness. No, when you can even we would have felt, no, when we are for example, when you are alone, walking in a night, you will feel as if someone is sitting on our chest, no? So breathlessness will be there. You will be having hyperventilation, and if hyperventilation is very high, you will be having breathlessness.
One has asked, what is PCOS, sir?
Yeah, I'm typing that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, one has asked how to avoid stress day before the exam. So that's what no, we usually see people when we say seminar, no, people will come and tell us that yesterday my mom was not well. Yesterday I was not well, so I cannot read. So in order to overcome that, we should read from the first, not on the day before the exam. If you do it, you'll be having surely you'll be having stress.
Yes. I don't understand what is that, sir.
Yeah, I also. Tapna, zebrafish are mites, which is experimentally stressful related to stressful behavior. So actually, when you work on higher organism, it will be more related to humans. So when compared with zebrafish or mice, mice will be a better model. When you compare mice with rat, rat will be a better model for studying stress. So in order to study, for example, no, we use zebrafish because it is easy to handle. So,
One has asked, I'm not getting sleep because of stress. How to avoid it?
so even actually, I am also not getting sleep due to stress. One thing is you should keep away your cell phone before 2 hours before sleep. That is the main reason that we are not sleeping. So in order to overcome situation before sleep, you should no. That's what no, they take to till no take a deep breath for. That's what I was told in that picture. Take a deep breath for 15 breaths per minute, I think. So take a deep breath for 15 times. Take a deep breath and expire out. Take an inspiration and expire out, and do it for at least 15 times. So surely you will go for sleep because that will actually to overcome stress. That's the way you can work out with the stress. So exercise surely used to control the stress. So if you exercise daily, so actually exercise, what is the role of exercise on stresses? Exercise actually gives you confidence. How to, if you have a very good physique, you will be having a very good confidence in you. So that is the one people usually used to have exercise daily. So that's the thing. So when you have more amount of self-confidence, you will be having a courage to overcome all the stressful situations. How to check we are physically normal or not? So for that we are having an analog scale. A visual analog scale is there, and that it's actually like a questionnaire. So each and every individual will be asked to fill up that questionnaire to judge the uh, how much stress they are exposed, whether you are in actually stress or whether you are normal. That's actually called a visual analog scale. We have a questionnaire for that. They usually know it's almost like a feedback form. feedback form மாதிரி வச்சுக்கிட்டு வந்து நீங்க whether you can how will you face this situation, how will face that situation, are you in you will be having that that sort of questions is there, and that is used to evaluate the stress scale. Old age people, how to do exercise and manage stress. So speak with them. That is the treatment they need for stress. Older people, you should spend time with them and not to avoid them, and they should be taken care like a kid. That's what you can cure them. Swati?
Yes, one last query is there.
Hmm.
They were not normal by our speech in some time.
But they are not normal by your speech in some time. Yeah, no, older people actually they speak much to listen to what they speak. Actually, we won't do that. So even in my home, it's the same problem, no? My dad, he will speak much, but I will not hear to him. So usually he used to shout at me. But nowadays I realize that since they are becoming old, they needs our attention. So they want us to hear what they speak fully. So that is the thing we can give. That is the only anti-stressor therapy that we can give to the elders.
Why BP or heart rate
Yeah, that's
rises?
actually call it as an adrenal rush. Why my BP and heart rate rises while seeing accident? That is called as adrenal rush. That is when you are exposed to stress, no, suddenly your sympathy stimulation will get activated, and you will have increased in the catecholamine level in your body, and that is why you will be having increased heart rate and BP while seeing an accident. How can we manage stress when you are aggressive? So only thing to manage stress is be silent, drink water, take a deep breath, and stay away from the situation. Just go out from there.
Okay, sir. I think I don't
Yeah,
find any
yeah,
more
yeah.
queries.
Thank you, Shwadi. Thank you, ma. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you,
Thank
ma.
you for patiently answering all the questions, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Shwati. Thank you.
This is to all the participants. I'm posting the link in the chat box. Click on the link and give your feedback. I repeat, this is to all the participants. I'm posting the link in the chat box. Please click on the link and give your feedback. Thank you all participants. We are ending the